Hi and welcome to this week's video. In this week's video, more work on the front decking. Still not quite got it finished yet, but we're getting there. So let's see what I got up to. Come on then. I've made this block up, which is going to go in behind here. That's all going to get bonded into position. And then I can screw the forward section onto there, and the rear section can be screwed. We've got bits sorted out, and that gives us support on the arch, which I've put 2 layers of bracing on just down here. That goes up to just up there, so that's sort of double thickness just on this side, and that's to allow for the thicknesses and bits for anchor nuts, for those cover plates to have anchor nuts to screw into. Oh, I got this lot bonded together. So I've just put a little bit of packing tape around so that I can glue the doubler onto the outer section of ply and still have it so I can remove it to go across, but just so I've got all that bonded into place to start off with. Later, once the fuel tank bit sorted out, of course that'll be bonded in place. Just try to get the stages sorted to get that in. I'll then put tape around the front end of the centre section so I can actually take this off and then glue this section all together. All a bit of fun, hey? Here's the front section. It's bonded in. I filled all the screw holes where the screws were with epoxy. I drilled them slightly just to make sure there's no oil or anything from the screws, and then just filled those with epoxy with a bit of cotton flocks in there, so it's got a little bit of strength. So that's all sent down. This all needs to be sent down again with some 220 180 grit, something like that, just to smooth things down a little bit. I'm now just going to take off this section here. We can then work the little filler pieces, and I can start getting some of the other bits sorted out for the fuel tank filler up here. So I'll be mounting the fuel tank filler to the fuel tank, so I can get that filler position marked up on this cover, and then we can start working our way through. I'm also starting to play around looking at what we're going to do here for the screen, how I'm going to do the screen section so it looks nice. Probably going from a point about here down to about there for the sides, from here to about there on the cabane, so I've got something to hold on to above the screen for getting in and out of the aircraft. I've got some grab handles. A little bit of work carried out. I've made up these little corner fill-in pieces here, so that when the panel comes in it's got nice rounded corners. Could have left those squared off, I suppose. I just thought it would make a better finish. I've just put a little bit of filling wood flour and resin just to make sure this piece is absolutely perfect. It's very slightly low. And then trailing edge section cut about to create these blocks here for the panel to sit against and to close up any gaps. Makes it far more stable. Of course, I had to dress out the top of that to allow for the fuel tank section to go into. These blocks here will be drilled shortly. This one about here somewhere, this one here, and this one will be actually forward pretty much about there, to take the screws for holding P-clips in, but they'll be back drilled so there won't be a hole coming out through the front here. So everything's sort of sanded there. Pretty much got that a lot organised, and I've taken all this panel off. This is a lot firmer. I put a little bit extra bracing underneath because it was still a little bit too flimsy to put things on. I'm going to dress this a lot back and then put in my filler pieces front and rear. They're to be done yet. A bit of work to go in there, but I might do those in sort of a bit of a slow time. And then but at the moment I'm just sort of setting up so I can actually put the fuel tank in to work out exactly where the filler point is. And then I've actually cut this top cover down at the moment, so I've taken out the inspection panel side, so I've just cut those out. That shows you how low the fuel tank is. If I just stick a rule over the top, you'll see that the filler cap is below the surface by quite a chunk. So that's why I'm going to have to make up a some sort of metal funnel almost to go down to that level. I can't mount it any higher because it interferes with the cabane struts back here. So now I've got to that point, I'm just going to measure back from the front edge here to the centre of the cap. This is central from left to right, so that's no problem at all. So I'm just going to measure back to there, and I can then bore a hole into the top cover, just so I've got a reference point. Here's the hole cut in the top at the moment. I will make the hole bigger, so I can actually have a decent slope down on my metal section. Contemplating whether I might actually put some sort of lid on that, I'm not sure, but I'll have the old wire fuel indicator coming out of the top here anyway, so that might not be particularly practical. But I may elongate it a bit further towards the back when I'm making the piece. That way it'll be easy to get my hand in, and it'll be less disruptive to the airflow. Although drag is these are the issues at that sort of particular area on the airframe, with all the cabanes causing turbulence and things. A bit like giving a pig a strawberry, as they say. I'm not going to bond this section on too early, because I do actually want to, as I already said, fill in the sections here, but I also want to put in, get that out of the way, the fuel tank breather, which is going from there across to the firewall, down and come out of the bottom of the aircraft. So need to make that up, and it's easier to do that without that top cover section on. So we'll see how we get on with that a lot another day. But yeah, it's not too hot today, not as bad as it was last weekend, that was for sure, where the temperature in the workshop got to over 30 degrees. At least today we're just nicely in the 20s. We'll crack on and get a bit more work done. Just a little play around. I'm just trying to make up a form for doing the aluminium at the moment. So I've got 3/4 inch ply, 2 layers bonding together there, round oversize. It's only going to be 170 millimeters from one side to the other, or slightly smaller on the aircraft, going down to a hole down here, which, let's mix up our measurements, will be about 2¼ inches to allow for a grommet to go into it to fit around the filler neck, but it's going to have to taper down pretty much almost like sort of 45 degrees, because it's nearly 35 millimeters from the top of the deck to where I want to put the grommet, which is sort of just below the top of the filler neck itself. So this I'm bonding together. This will then go onto a back plate on the lathe and be turned, and then all that will be bonded onto and screwed onto another plate, ply plate. So I've got something to form against after I've put in the curve going this way to match up with the top of the fuselage. So there we go. This is being glued with PVA. Once it's all been turned to sort of close to size, I'll soak it with thin well, some resin, which I'll warm to make sure it penetrates into the grain and help to hold everything together, and then it'll have its final turning. So I can have it almost as like a sort of almost a polished sort of finish, very smooth finish, let's put it that way, for me to try and beat a piece of aluminium into submission to do the job I want. Well, that's it, folks. Another quite intensive amount of work really on the front decking here, getting it sorted out. We're almost there for this actual to be completed, although for the whole area to be completed I need the cabanes off, make up the filler cap section, which you've seen I've started getting things ready to do, and we've got little side panels, a few little bits and pieces to do to get that finished. So hopefully in the next video the central section up here will be completed, the fuel vent will be completed, and we can start looking at some other bits moving forward. Maybe even start making a bit more to do with the filler. We'll see what we get up to. At least it's been a lot cooler this week than it was last week, and we've gone over the 600 hours now on the build, just over 600 hours. So yeah, we're clanking along on time. Anyway, look after yourselves and have a pleasant week. Catch you next time. Bye. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the thumbs up. You can subscribe or even hit the little bell notification for future videos. Any comments would be appreciated, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as I can. Remember, go fly and feel the sky.